Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. We hear the word fascism all the time. It's the left's new favorite buzzword. Fascist this, fascist that, fascism this, fascism that. But of course, when challenged, it seems as though none of them can actually define what fascism even means.
Can you define what a fascist is?
You are a fascist.
I am? What makes me a fascist? What makes me a fascist?
Read a book.
Read a book? Which book?
Talked about fascism quite a bit today. What is fascism? Tell me about it.
Fascism is, it's a complex idea, but generally fascism is, terminology, sorry, it's the supremacy of like the bourgeoisie.
A lot of people said he's not actually a fascist. So then why call him a fascist?
Well, I don't know the exact definition of a fascist, so I don't know if he is or isn't a fascist.
It's simply just a buzzword. You know, the bourgeoisie and the rich. Your brain on communism, folks. Say no to drugs. But anyways, the left is always going on about how Donald Trump's a fascist, but it's almost always complete projection. Remember when Trump was president and he had to deal with all these clowns in the press, you know, Jim Acosta types? They would go after him and he would just rip them a new one.
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
You guys remember, the narrative they were attempting to build was that Donald Trump was a fascist tyrant who had no respect for the free press. He was inciting his fascist MAGA mob to go after journalists, and there was even threat that Donald Trump would start rounding up lefty journalists who didn't praise him to be sent to the gulags, political prisoners, the end of the American free press. That is what they told you, remember?
What absolute power for Donald Trump will mean. Joe, and this is not a stretch, you could end up in jail. That's what dictators do. They take their political opponents and they put them in jail.
And has vowed that he will be a dictator on day one. Dictators put journalists in jail.
Putin and Xi are models for Trump. We know that. Leaders who jail and silence journalists. Leaders who do not tolerate free speech. That's what Trump is threatening.
Well, once again, it seems as though that narrative was not only detached from reality and completely insane, but once again, it was projection. What they told you Donald Trump is, the threat that Donald Trump posed, is exactly what Joe Biden is and the threat that Joe Biden poses. The left continues its slow march into fascism as Joe Biden's DOJ decided today to arrest a Blaze Media reporter due to his stance on January 6th and his presence on the actual day of. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. Joe Biden just arrested a journalist for conducting journalism. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, friends, so take a look at this. Breaking: FBI arrests Blaze Media's Steve Baker over January 6th reporting. Investigative journalist Steve Baker was taken into custody by the FBI on Friday. He was detained for, quote, non-violent misdemeanors that his employer Blaze Media has stated amounts to his reporting on January 6th. In a video posted by Blaze Media, Baker is seen being taken by authorities in an arrest. They perp-walked the guy. Non-violent misdemeanors. Relating to January 6th, they went after this guy, actually putting him in cuffs and stuffing him in the back seat for simply conducting journalism. Steve Baker addressed what's going on in a Twitter thread. He writes, "Breaking. This time it's really happening. Unlike the two previous threats my attorneys received from the FBI/the Justice Department on November 1st and December 23rd, my self-surrender for alleged J6 crimes is set for Friday morning in Dallas, Texas. There is now a signed arrest warrant. I must turn myself in to the FBI at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then the FBI will transport me to the Dallas courthouse where I can meet my attorney at 9:30 a.m. I'm then scheduled for a 10 a.m. hearing before the magistrate. The prosecutor informed my attorney that I am to arrive at the FBI field office wearing shorts and sandals. They didn't have to go this route, as we've been told that my charges are non-violent misdemeanors. My attorneys have also been assured by the government that this will be an in-and-out affair and that they have no intention of detaining me, but rather than issuing a simple order to appear, they seem to feel the need to give me a dose of personal humiliation treatment. We do not yet know the specific charges. Technically, they are still under seal until the warrant is served. All else is yet unknown. By this weekend, I will officially be a misdemeanor domestic journo terrorist, something like that, and so it begins. I will not be taking questions here until after Friday. You can DM me for media appearance requests, but for legal questions and clarifications, please reach out to one of my attorneys. And while I know it's not what you'd see in, let's say, Russia or the Soviet Union, they aren't putting the guy in solitary confinement and then he just poof disappears. But what they are doing is sending a message. Mr. Baker is correct. If he's being told that it's going to be an in and out affair where they have no intention of actually detaining him, he's been told that his charges are non-violent misdemeanors, why would they arrest him and put him in handcuffs? Well, very simply because they're sending a message. Steve Baker has been very vocal in his criticisms of the official narrative relating to January 6th. Obviously, we can't have that now, can we? And so they're dealing with him. Just like what they're doing with Donald Trump, just like what they're doing with freaking Eric Adams, even on their own team, and just like what they're probably doing with Catherine Herridge at CBS, they're sending a very clear message to journalists who actually have the courage to engage in real journalism. Their message, what they're saying is very simply, don't. And if you do, well, don't be surprised if all of a sudden your life gets a whole lot more difficult. I mean, the audacity of these leftoids to claim that we're the fascists when they cheer this stuff on. I mean, for Pete's sakes, how long have they been calling for Tucker Carlson to get arrested? As a collective group, all they do is call for the arrest of people that they disagree with, calling for the banning, depersoning, deplatforming of anybody with differing opinions. But we're the fascists. Donald Trump was the threat. Give me a frickin' break. Everything they warned you about, that infamous Rachel Maddow clip.
Now that he's got the right attorney general in position to do it, we now know they really have been trying to gin up criminal prosecutions and criminal investigations into the president's perceived enemies, politically motivated persecution, right? Mr. Trump is using the Justice Department to go after his perceived enemies. I feel worried about the prospect of the Justice Department being used as a tool of this president or any.
Is what Joe Biden is doing. Not only are they arresting journalists, but they're weaponizing the judicial system as a whole. Breaking, an Illinois judge has ruled that former President Donald Trump should be taken off the state's ballot for the primary election. Fannie Willis getting BTFO'd, Jack Smith not going to get his little case across the finish line in time, and so what do? Well, they probably made one phone call and said, quick, let's weaponize the court system in Illinois to cause a distraction. They are weaponizing the justice system, and it comes from the very top. It comes from Joe Biden and Merrick Garland. Fannie Willis didn't just wake up one morning, decided that she was going to take probably the most ridiculous, most insane case prosecuting a former president. No one would willfully take such a garbage case. She was told to do so. And it's the same thing with the political persecution of J6ers, and of course the journalists who were present on the day. They arrested Owen Schroyer, now they arrested Steve Baker. Those are shot calls coming from the very top. It's obviously political, because if it wasn't, they never would have done the frickin' perp walk, handcuffing him and shoving him in the back of a police car over supposed non-violent misdemeanor charges. You don't get arrested on a misdemeanor unless there's something else to the story. You get a simple summons, you show up, and that's it. Joe Biden continues to weaponize the DOJ in the most disgusting of fashion, and leftists, of course, still haven't realized that they're on the side of fascism. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.